post-Reconstruction resistance to disenfranchisement and terror. Those veterans like Ida B. Wells Barnett and W.E.B. Du Bois and the founders of the NAACP, and we have the NAACP out here today. We also celebrate the veterans of the Civil Rights Movement, the glorious American moral struggle that defeated Jim Crow segregation in the former Confederacy and in the North. People like John Lewis and Ella Baker and Claudette Colvin and Rosa Parks, the veterans who paid a down payment for our freedoms through the blood staining on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma 56 years ago. We also celebrate the veterans of last year, those freedom uprisings for Black Lives Matter, as we saw the tragic death of folk like Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. We know that they are veterans too. But I also want to tell you today, we crossed our own bridge to make it to this sacred place, to wage a moral war right here against modern day secession and segregation. We are veterans today. We are becoming veterans for the freedom struggle to say that racial injustice and economic injustice will not be the law of this land. Since 1896, the Plessy Doctrine, it majored in separate but played hooky when it came to equal. And we are here to say that no, time will not heal racial injustice. Silence will not heal racial injustice, because the problem is not people, the problem is broken policy. And we're here today as veterans to let this nation know, and to let this county know, and to let the great people of Absecon know that we don't show up with stymie pessimism, nor do we show up with superficial optimism. We show up ready to fight, ready for the long haul, and ready to do it in love and nonviolence, because we know that when people show up with justice on their minds, any moral battle can be won. While we are here, Absecon has moved to sever its regional send-receive relationship with Pleasantville. This move only denies the promise of Brown v. Board of Education, which we thought was the silver bullet to kill education and school segregation. But we are here today because school segregation did not die with Brown v. Board. But it is very much alive, and we cannot allow this moment, this play to be a part of what denies the promise of Brown v. Board. This city has spent tens, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers and lobbying to get out of having a connection with the Pleasantville School District. And they tell us it's not about race. Pleasantville High School is 98% non-white. Absecon schools are majority white. Yet they tell us it's not about race. They tell us it's not about money. But over 90% of Pleasantville students are poor, while Absecon board members can brag in a meeting about succeeding from Pleasantville and how it will raise their property values. They tell us it's not about race. They tell us it's not about money. But we see beneath the thin veil. Absecon lawyer Vito Gagliari says this separation would not cause segregation or more poverty because they send less than 30 kids to our schools. And anyway, they're almost all black, brown, and poor kids, while almost all the white kids go to other schools. What they're saying is that they won't create any new segregation because they've already been segregated. They've already been practicing segregation for years. They've been practicing de facto segregation, and we can't let them practice state-sponsored segregation. They say there will be no poverty. There will be no more poverty because they're only sending their poor kids anyway. They are saying they are doing it because our schools are no good. Our kids bring down their kids. What they're really saying is that the damage done to our schools by their years of segregation, isolation, and concentrated poverty is now their pretext for secession. Most, if not all, of the challenges, social, academic, even political and financial, are the result of racial segregation and economic isolation, not the reason for isolation and segregation. The problems that we see in Pleasantville are a result of years of people pulling out and divesting and leaving our children behind without putting forth a real solution to get things done. And today we are here to say that more segregation is never the answer to segregation.
All right.
Mr. Gagliari has sent a petition to the State Commission of Education that is full of lies. It says it does not violate the Constitution, but it does. It says there will be no racial impact. There will be. It says there will be no financial impact. There will be. It says that there will be no educational impact. There will be. But there's more than that. Because it was Thurgood Marshall in 1952 that proved, and the Supreme Court agreed, that the deliberate segregation and isolation of school children does more to harm them financially and academically. It does incalculable damage to our children psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. He has said that our very sense of self, our sense of worth and value is diminished and demeaned by the message when people leave us behind and tell us we are not wanted. The sense of inferiority is seeded into their psyche. The feeling of powerlessness is planted in their soul. That is the message that Secession and Mr. Gagliari is sending to our children. But they need to know that segregation wounds the psyche of the segregated and the segregator.
Yes.
We need to change the message of powerlessness to a message of power through action. As they've been spending money to segregate, we've been raising a multiracial movement.
That's right.
400 people gathered at Mount Zion in November of 2019. 300 people marched from Mount Zion to City Hall in Pleasantville, demanding racial equality in our schools on King Day of 2020. Thousands of new voters were registered because of this movement. Over $25,000 have been invested into everyday parents and everyday families throughout this year. And while they were raising and spending money, we were raising a movement of the people, because we know that organized people will beat organized money every single day of the week. And so we break our silence, demonstrating and exercising the power on behalf of our children. And so here are our demands. Write these down. Here are our demands. Media, make sure you catch these. Here are our demands. We call on the Secession School Board to withdraw their odious petition and to join with us to work on a meaningful solution to the problem of school segregation in our region and our state. We call on the new Acting Commissioner of Education to reject Secession's petition on the grounds that it violates the New Jersey Constitution and contributes to more segregation. We call on Governor Murphy, who claims to be an ally for racial and economic justice. We say, Governor, use your power to see that this petition is not even considered, and that all of the nearly identical petitions and proposals that are put forth by Gagliari are all shut down and canceled at once. These are our demands, and we will be delivering these demands to the governor on Friday. We will be delivering these demands by hand to the new acting commissioner of education. And listen, the governor sent us a letter that he wanted us to read, and it was insulting what he said.
My God.
I'm glad that he appreciates us marching, but I need him on board with what we're marching for. And so I'll let him know we need him on our team for what we're marching for, not just happy that we're marching. I'm grateful to see Dr. Dooley here, who has provided water for so many of you. And what he said to me, and it was reported in the paper, that he too is against racial and economic segregation and is committed to serving poor and minority students. Well, he can show us that by withdrawing